Today we will be covering the sensors on the EV3 from a much simpler level to a much complex level. We will be starting with the gyro sensor, how to use a gyro sensor. So we can do a lot with gyro sensors. We can use gyro sensors to turn, make perfect turns because they can sense angles. And at the same time, we can use a gyro sensor to move the robot straight. So we can use it to readjust the robot every time the robot kind of turns. If you've used EV3, I know you've came across that problem where you're programming the robot to go forward straight, but at some point it's going like it's not really going straight, it's turning a little bit and it's a bit of a problem. So we're going to try to also solve that with the gyro sensor. We're going to start with simple, the normal gyro sensing movement, how to turn with gyro sensor. So, and how to turn with gyro sensor, let's start by using motors. Let's use motors blocks to do that. And then we'll use movement blocks to turn with the gyro sensor. And then from there, now we can do gyro straight, moving forward straight with the gyro sensor. So to do that, we head to motors block. And on motors block, we start with speed, the block that says set speed to 75. Set speed to 75. Instead of 75, let's have it at a lower speed, like a 20, because lower speeds are really good. And on the A, we are using motors. So you have to pick a port where your motor is connected to. In this instance, I might pick maybe B. And then from that, I'll pick another block, the second block in motor that says start motor A clockwise. Connect it down there. Turn it to my motor, which is B, and clockwise works. From there, now I'll head to sensors and I'll scroll down until I can get the gyro sensor blocks. And I'll just pick the first block that says 2, wait until angle is less than 45. So I'll pick that one, connect it there. So our gyro sensor is connected to port number 3. So make sure your connections are good, because if your connections are not good, then it's something else. And then we can change, instead of less than, we can have it at greater than. So greater than 45, we can just have 45 degrees. So we turn greater than 45 degrees. Then we can head back to motors. Then we can put a block that says stop motor. Stop motor B. So this is a normal gyro sensing, how to turn with gyro sensor using motors blocks. Then we can play to make sure that we see if it's actually working or not. Yes. Okay, we try it again. Yes. Um, so the gyro sensor, it's supposed to just turn, and it doesn't turn using the motors. Instead, it senses when the whole robot turns. Sometimes you might experience a problem when you upload your first program, your first gyro sensing program, and then the robot doesn't work. That doesn't mean your program is bad. Sometimes the robot takes time to adjust to the sensor. And so what I like to do is head to sensors, and on gyro sensor, there's a sensor that says reset angle. So I put it as the first block, and then I can turn it to 3 because gyro sensor is connected to 3. So you reset, when you click to start your program, it starts by resetting the angle. So it starts by going back to 0. and then starts counting the angles from 0. Now that is 45 degrees. If you want it to turn more, you just go to 45 and you edit 45. You can make it more or you can make it less. Maybe if you want less turns. And remember, it turns using the whole robot. So when the whole robot turns, that is when the gyro sensor will sense, not just when the motors are spinning. And then we have the speed block, which is going to make sure that the speed that we are moving in is 20%. And remember, lower speeds are good when it comes to turning because now your wheels are not sliding. And then from there, now we put a block that says start motor clockwise. So this start motor clockwise doesn't tell us when we should stop the motor. And that is when the sensor comes in. So the gyro sensor is going to wait until it senses the robot has turned 45 degrees, and then we put a stop motor which stops it.
So it means when I don't have reset angle, it won't work perfectly.
It will work, but at some point, maybe on your first trial and the second trial, or maybe third, the robot won't be doing it, but after a while it will catch up to it. But if you put the reset angle, then it makes it easy for you to do it. When kids are doing programming and with the blocks, and then sometimes just imagine this is only turning. We're having 5 blocks for only turning. So if you were to solve a certain task with EV3 and this is only blocks for turning, so that means your program will be much bigger. And if it's much bigger, it gets crazier because now you won't be able to find where the problem is. So to simplify that, we can head down to my blocks, go to my blocks, and you can make a block. And when you make a block, you can give it a name. So for example, this is turning. I can call it turning. So when you call it turning, you just click save. And when you save, there's a defined turning block will appear on top of on your canvas, your working canvas. When the defined blocks appears, now we're gonna take all of our program from when the program starts, and now we're gonna put it on define. We're gonna connect it to define. So once you connect it, now it's gonna turn all of that code into a single block. So when you just click on my blocks, you'll see a small block called turning. So that turning is now our turning block. All of these blocks here, I've turned them into one block, which is the turning block. So if you want to turn, you can just go to my blocks and you can pick the turning block and you can connect it to when the program starts. So every time you want to play that turning program, you connect it to when the program starts. So this defined one, we can hide it because now we don't need it anymore on the screen. So we can hide it somewhere. You can just hide it from the screen. Now I'm having my turning block, which I used my blocks to do it. So what we're gonna do, we can head to movements, and then we can just put a normal moving forward block. So we can say move forward for maybe one rotation, and then we can take our turning block and we can put it under the move forward. So that is a normal gyro sensing code where we move forward and turn. Can you play the code again? So see, if I hold the robot, if it doesn't turn to 45 degrees, it's gonna keep spinning. The gyro sensor, it's only gonna stop when the robot has turned the exact degrees you gave it. So you can play, we see. So I'm just gonna hold it, and then now it's turning. So it's gonna keep turning forever. It won't stop until it does the degrees that you set it to do. So the gyro sensor makes a turn. So it's gonna keep spinning, but as soon as I let it go and it senses the 45 degrees it was supposed to, it ends up sensing it, ends up stopping. So up to there, do you have any question?
On our code, we had wait until the angle is greater than 45 degrees. What if I use less than? Will it still do the same turn?
Yeah, so now your turns, you're gonna be editing your turns on the degrees. So if you want less turns, you go from 45 to 20, something less. But if you want to turn more, you keep adding the degrees. So you can do 50, 90 degrees.
So which means on my 45 degrees, it is going to be lower than 45.
No, if it's greater than, if your code says greater than 45, it might stop at maybe 46. So it will pick a number greater than 45 degrees because it's greater than, so it can't stop exactly at 45 degrees. But now if you wanna change your turns, you change it on the degrees. If you want it to turn more, you add the degrees. You tell it to turn 100 degrees. You tell it to turn 90, 80. If you want it to turn less, you just change the degrees to something less. On movements, we're gonna start with speed as usual. Set movement speed to, and I'm gonna give it a 20 also. Turning at a lower speed is good. And then we're gonna pick the third block on movements that says start moving straight, straight 0. Then it doesn't do anything. So we set movement speed to 20, so it turns at a lower speed. Then we start moving, we pick the start moving straight block at 0. But now instead, we want to leave it straight 0. 0 means the robot is going to move straight. But since we want to turn using the gyro sensor, we're going to head to straight. Instead of 0, you can have it at 50. Because now 50 is a sharp right turn or a left turn. After set movement speed, start moving right 50. And use that block that doesn't have rotations, just the third one in that block in movements. And then we can head down to sensors, and on sensors we can do the same. We can just pick the gyro sensor, because this is actually a repetition. It's like a repetition of what motors blocks were doing. And you can even do a reset angle on top of when the program starts. Do a reset angle, and then you can head back to movements and stop moving, just the same way that we did with motors, but now we are using different kind of blocks to move straight. It's a little bit different of a program than what we've used before. So how we're gonna do it? You can open another program. You can click plus and open another program. So those ones are turning. Now we are trying to solve the problem of your robot is moving straight and sometimes it's turning a little bit. So to move straight, completely straight. So that is the problem you're trying to solve right now, where the robot rectifies itself. Let's say when it turns a little bit, it rectifies itself and goes back to moving straight exactly how you wanted it to be. So it's a code I put together because I've experienced that problem a lot when we are working for the competitions. In this code, we're gonna start with set movements motors to hold position. So if you just go to movements, you can set movement motors to hold position. So once we have hold position, we can add a reset. We can add a reset. We are using gyro, so sensors, gyro sensor, reset angle. Once we have set movement to hold position and we have reset angle, that means every time we start this program, it's going to be resetting the angle back to 0. Okay, so another thing we're going to do is we're going to add to controls, and then we're going to pick a repeat until. And a code that says repeat until, that block, you're going to put it down there. So after putting repeat until, we head down to operators. And on operators, we can pick greater than 100. We're going to head to motors. And then on motors, there's a block that says A, degrees counted. A, degrees counted, we're going to put it on the first circle of greater than, the one that doesn't have anything. doesn't have 100. So the reason we did that is because now we'll be using a repeat until. So to use a repeat until, we are using the degrees counted blocks now to replace the rotations. Because normally, let's say you just want to move from here to where that laptop is, and maybe you want to move for maybe one rotation. So because now we're using a repeat until, we want to be able to count rotations. So instead, we're going to use the degrees block, a degrees counted, to now set our rotations. So, but you're going to now be using degrees instead of rotations. So let's say maybe 2000 degrees. As 2000 is a good number when it comes to degrees. So let's assume 2000 degrees is 2 rotations. So the robot is going to move for only 2. It's going to repeat this program for only 2 rotations. So next, we're going to do start moving at 20 speed or something. We're going to go to movements, and it's the second last block on movements. Start moving straight at 50 speed. We're going to now put it inside the repeat until. Once we have that, we're going to head back to operators. Then inside operators, we're going to pick a times block. It should be under minus. It looks like a star, but it's times. So we're going to pick that times block. Then we're going to put it where start straight 0 is at. We're going to pick another one that is a minus. And on these times, on the first circle, we're going to put our minus inside there. So let's head back to sensors, to gyro sensor. And on gyro sensor, we can pick that says 2 angle. There's a block that says 2 and then just say angle. We can take that and we can put it now in the middle circle. So once we have that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna head to the star side. You can see, if you look at it, you'll see one side is minus and one side is star, which is the times. So on the times side, you can put 2. I'll tell you why we put 2.
The minus is supposed to be the first one.
Yeah, minus is the first one. So on the times side, we can put 2. On the minus side, we can put 0. And then at the end, we can have stop moving to stop the repeat until. So you can head to movements and put stop moving. This block that says start moving straight, this one here, I actually call this block a move tank. And I call it a move tank because this block can do a couple things at the same time. So it can move the robot motors forward. At the same time, it can move them backwards. And at the same time, this block can move each motor differently. So it can make B motor move forward and C motor move backwards at the same time. And I think you guys have seen that when you're turning with this block, when you just put turn at 20, both of the motors usually work. One of the motors usually go back, the other one usually goes forward. So this is a move tank block which is capable of moving the robot motors in any direction. That's why we're using it. But instead of me moving straight in the middle, which is straight, instead of using numbers there, I took a gyro sensor and put it inside the move tank. So now on our code, the gyro sensor will be the one controlling the motors instead of the block itself controlling the motors. So I've just taken a gyro sensor, put it inside there. The reason I have times 2, it's because every time the robot is turned, it rectifies itself times 2. So an example is, let's say the robot turned this way up to here. So 2 times, that means it's going to times the rotations and move back to its normal position of exactly how it was. That's why I'm using times and minus. So at the moment, you'll play with numbers. Let's say if you increase your times, because sometimes you might find that maybe it's responding too fast. And my advice is don't go over 2. let's say 3 should be the last number on your times. When you put more than 3, it tends to times a lot. So that means if it turns this way, when it rectify itself, it can go beyond the normal turning. That's why you can't go above 2. And minus 0 is good on minus, but you can do 0.5, 0.2 according to how you actually want the rectifying to be, how fast you want the response to be. On the side, speed is normal speed. We are not changing anything on speed. And we have a stop motor. In that code, do you have any questions?
Remember, the robot normally reads the code according to the way it has been organized.
Yeah.
From the start block to the last block.
Yeah.
So on mine, I have like my start block saying reset angle.
Yeah.
And then set movement motors going all the way down. So is there a difference, or would the robot work according to the way I've placed my blocks?
So the robot will work according to how you've placed your blocks.
So is there going to be a difference between someone's robot and mine if mine is starting with the reset angle and another person's block starts with set movement motors?
No, because now in this program, our main blocks are the blocks which are inside the repeat. From the repeat, that is what is going to be running the code. So on reset angle and set movement to hold position, these blocks are just going to play once inside on the code. When we start, they're only going to play once and they won't affect the program anymore. The reason it wasn't moving is because it was less than. So we can't put less than. We're using greater than because we're using, you see the set B degrees counted. Tunaitumia in form of rotations. The same way when you want to move from here to here, you can say 4 rotations, 5 rotations. So instead, we are using set degrees counted. So we'll be using degrees to move. So if I want to move from here to here, I'll find out how many degrees I'm going to need to move from here to here. And then it's going to rectify itself, the whole movement until to where it was supposed to reach, and then it's going to stop. That is all for today. There's more maybe we'll do with the gyro sensor. With time, you can find more things you can, because you can do a lot with the gyro sensor. And with time, we'll figure out a lot of different things. That is just maybe the basic programs you're going to need with the gyro sensor. So I have nothing else unless you guys have something else.